The lights in the cantina were dim, casting long shadows across the metal tables. Captain Zeftar sat alone in his favorite corner, watching the crowd of alien traders drink and argue. His forearms rested on the table, while his large eyes scanned the room. After 30 years of trading across the galaxy, he knew how to spot trouble. Two small figures huddled at a nearby table caught his attention. They spoke in whispers, glancing around nervously every few seconds. Zeftar recognized them as information brokers, the kind of beings who sold secrets for credits. His pointed ears twitched as he tried to hear their conversation. "The readings don't make sense," one of them hissed. "Nothing should be able to survive in the Maelstrom Nebula." "Quiet," the other one snapped. "Someone might hear you." Zeftar leaned closer. The Maelstrom Nebula was forbidden territory. Everyone in the galaxy knew that. Ships that went there never came back. "But the energy signatures," the first broker continued. "They're not in any database. Not Cytherian, not Vorthon, not even ancient precursor tech." "I said be quiet," his companion growled. "Do you want to end up like Captain Nexavol?" Zeftar's blood ran cold. Captain Nexavol had been asking questions about the forbidden zones last month. Then he disappeared. His ship was found drifting in space with no crew aboard. The first broker pulled out a small data pad. "Look at this. 3 different monitoring stations picked up the same thing. A ship, moving through gravitational fields that would crush our best dreadnoughts." "Impossible," the second broker said, but he leaned in to look. "That's what I thought. But the readings are clear. Something big is in there. Something that doesn't follow the rules we know." Zeftar stood up and walked over to their table. "Excuse me, friends. I couldn't help but hear you talking about strange ships." Both brokers jumped like startled animals. The data pad disappeared into a coat pocket faster than Zeftar could blink. "We weren't talking about anything," the first broker said quickly. "Just trade routes, normal trade routes." "Nothing strange at all," the second one added. "Nice evening, isn't it?" They both stood up and hurried toward the exit. Zeftar followed them, but they vanished into the crowded corridors of Nexus Station before he could catch up. On the other side of the station, Agent Vera sat in her small office reviewing reports. Her pale blue skin glowed softly in the light from her computer screen. As a consortium intelligence agent, she spent her days reading through thousands of messages looking for threats to galactic peace. Recently, she had noticed something odd. The same rumor kept appearing on different worlds. Always the same story, mysterious ships in forbidden space. Always quickly denied by local authorities. She pulled up her files. 3 reports from Kepler Station mentioned unusual sensor ghosts near the Maelstrom Nebula. 5 traders on Arcturus Prime claimed they heard radio chatter in an unknown language. 2 deep space miners on the edge of Vega system reported seeing lights moving in impossible patterns. Every time someone investigated these reports, they either found nothing or suddenly stopped talking about it. The pattern was too clear to ignore. Vara activated her secure communication system and sent a priority message to her supervisor. "Request permission to investigate reports of unknown vessels in forbidden territories." The reply came back within minutes. "Permission denied. Focus on current assignments. No further investigation required." That response told Vara everything she needed to know. Someone didn't want these reports investigated. That meant they were probably true. Back in the cantina, Zeftar ordered another drink and thought about what he had heard. He had been trading in this sector for decades. He knew every ship design, every energy signature, every trick pirates used to hide from sensors. The brokers had been scared, really scared. Not the nervous fear of people trying to sell stolen goods. This was the deep terror of beings who had seen something that shouldn't exist. Zeftar activated his personal communicator and called his old friend Grixital, who worked at the Deep Space Monitoring Center. "Grix, old friend, I need a favor." "What kind of favor?" Grixital's gravelly voice came through the speaker. "Have you been getting any strange readings from the Forbidden Zones lately?" There was a long pause. "Zeph, I can't talk about that. Not on an open channel." "Can't or won't?" Both. Look, whatever you're thinking about doing, don't. Some questions are too dangerous to ask. The connection ended. Zeftar stared at his communicator. In 20 years of friendship, Grixtal had never refused to help him before. Vara continued her investigation despite her supervisor's orders. She used her security clearance to access monitoring station logs from across the galaxy. The pattern was clear once she knew what to look for. Over the past 6 months, automated sensors had been going offline near forbidden zones. Not breaking down, just going silent. When repair teams arrived, they found the sensors intact, but completely wiped of data. She found 17 different reports of equipment malfunction in the same regions where the mystery ship sightings occurred. That wasn't a coincidence. Her computer chimed with an incoming message. It was from Captain Rexthor of the Deep Space Patrol vessel Starlight. His message was brief. Agent Vera, need to speak with you privately. Important information about forbidden zones. Meet me at Docking Bay 7 in 1 hour. Come alone. Vera hesitated. This could be a trap. But Captain Rexthor was known as an honest officer. If he had information, she needed to hear it. An hour later, she walked through the quiet corridors leading to Docking Bay 7. The area was mostly empty at this time of shift. Her footsteps echoed off the metal walls. She found Captain Rexthor waiting by his ship. He was a large, muscular being with thick gray skin and worried eyes. Agent Vara, he said quietly. Thank you for coming. What I'm about to tell you could get us both in serious trouble. I'm listening, she said. 3 weeks ago, my patrol took us near the edge of the Maelstrom Nebula. We weren't supposed to go that close, but we picked up a distress signal. When we investigated, we found something impossible. Rexthor pulled out a small recording device. This is 17 seconds of sensor data. It's all we managed to record. Before our systems went crazy, the recording showed energy readings unlike anything in Vera's database. The power output was enormous, but the energy patterns made no sense. It was like looking at the signature of a star contained inside a ship. What kind of vessel could generate that much power? She asked. That's the question, isn't it? Rexthor said. But here's what really scared me. Right before our sensors failed, we detected something else. Communication signals. Organized patterns that looked like language, but not any language in our databases. Did you report this? I tried. My commanding officer told me to delete the recordings and never speak of it again. When I refused, I was transferred to a desk job. That's when I knew this was bigger than just strange sensor readings. Vera looked at the data again. If this was real, it meant there was an unknown species operating in forbidden space, a species with technology far beyond anything the consortium had seen. Captain, she said slowly, I think we need to dig deeper into this. But we'll have to be very careful. Someone is working hard to keep this secret. Rexthor nodded grimly. Then we better find out why before it's too late. As they spoke, neither of them noticed the small listening device attached to the underside of Rexthor's ship. Their conversation was being recorded and transmitted to a heavily encrypted receiver, somewhere deep in consortium headquarters. The truth about the forbidden zones was about to become much more dangerous. Agent Vara spent the next 3 days gathering every piece of information she could find. Her small apartment had become a maze of data pads, star charts, and printed reports. She had barely slept, surviving on coffee and determination. The evidence was scattered across the galaxy, but it painted a clear picture. Something was happening in the forbidden zones, and someone was working very hard to cover it up. She had found records of 14 different monitoring stations that had gone silent in the past year. All were positioned near the edges of forbidden territories. When repair crews arrived, they found the stations intact, but their memory banks completely empty. Even stranger were the rescue beacon signals. Ancient emergency beacons that had been quiet for thousands of years were suddenly activating for brief periods before going silent again. The beacon codes were so old that most computers couldn't even translate them. Vara pulled up a galactic map and marked every location where strange events had occurred. The pattern was obvious once she saw it. All the incidents formed a rough circle around the Maelstrom Nebula, as if something was slowly expanding outward from the center. Her computer chimed with an encrypted message. It was from Captain Rexthor. Found something important. Meet me at the old freight depot on level 47. Midnight. The freight depot had been abandoned for years. Dust covered everything, and the air recyclers hadn't worked in decades. Vara found Rexthor waiting in the shadows between two massive cargo containers. "I've been asking questions," he said quietly. Carefully. I found 3 other patrol captains who had similar experiences near forbidden zones. "What did they see?" Vara asked. Captain Yilvex detected a massive power signature moving through an asteroid field that should have torn apart any known ship. Captain Nexthor reported gravitational distortions that followed no known physics, and Captain Kesimir recorded communication signals using quantum encryption methods we've never seen before. Rexthor handed her a data chip. "That's copies of everything they could save before their superiors ordered them to delete the files. But there's more. I found out what happened to the original survey expeditions that discovered the Maelstrom Nebula 50 years ago." Vara's eyes widened. The official report said they encountered unstable space conditions and were lost. That's what they want everyone to believe. But I found the real records. 3 expeditions went into the nebula. Only 1 ship came back, and it was badly damaged. The crew reported contact with unknown hostile forces. Where are those crew members now? Most of them are dead, old age, accidents, or sudden illnesses. But I found one survivor, Dr. Keswin. He lives on a farming planet in the Outer Rim, completely off the grid. Vara felt a chill run down her spine. They were silenced. Looks that way. But Dr. Keswin disappeared before anyone could reach him. He's been hiding for 40 years. Rexthor pulled up a star chart on his portable display. Here's the coordinates for his last known location. But Vara, if we go there, there's no going back. Once we make contact with him, we'll be marked as security risks too. Vara looked at the information one more time. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. There was an unknown force in the forbidden zones, and the consortium leadership was covering it up. The question was why. "I have to know the truth," she said, "even if it's dangerous." 2 days later, Vara took leave from her position and boarded a small transport ship heading for the Outer Rim territories. She told her supervisor she needed time to recover from work stress. It wasn't entirely a lie. The journey to Kepler's world took 5 days. It was a small agricultural planet with no major cities, just scattered farming communities connected by dirt roads. Most of the colonists were families who wanted to live simple lives away from the complexity of galactic civilization. Finding Dr. Keswin wasn't easy. The local residents were suspicious of strangers, and many of them didn't even use real names. Vara had to show her consortium credentials to get any cooperation at all. Finally, an old farmer pointed her toward a remote valley where the weird scientist lived alone. She rented a ground vehicle and drove along a bumpy track that led through fields of strange purple grain. The house was small and looked like it had been built from scrap metal and salvaged ship parts. Solar collectors provided power, and a small water recycler hummed quietly in the yard. Dr. Keswin was working in a vegetable garden when she arrived. He looked up as her vehicle approached, and she saw fear flash across his weathered face. Without a word, he dropped his tools and ran toward the house. "Dr. Keswin, wait," Vara called after him. "I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to ask about the expedition." The old man stopped at his front door and turned around. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "They'll know you came. They monitor everything." "Who monitors everything?" Dr. Keswin looked around nervously as if expecting attack ships to appear in the sky. "The same people who made sure I was the only survivor who lived long enough to..." "Tell the story, please," Vara said. "I need to know what you saw in the Maelstrom Nebula. People across the galaxy are seeing things they can't explain. Strange ships, impossible technology. It's all connected to what happened to your expedition, isn't it?" The old scientist studied her for a long moment. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and dark clouds were gathering on the horizon. "There's a storm coming," he said finally. "We'll have a few hours before the lightning interferes with any surveillance equipment they might have. Come inside, but understand this. Once I tell you what I saw, your life will never be the same. Inside the house, Dr. Keswin made tea while Vera waited. The walls were covered with star charts and scientific equipment that looked decades old. She noticed that all the windows had metal shutters, and there were several emergency communication devices near the door. I was the chief science officer on the survey ship Bright Hope, Dr. Keswin began. We were sent to map the Maelstrom Nebula and determine why previous expeditions had been lost. The official mission was scientific research, but I suspected we were looking for something specific. Outside, the storm was getting stronger. Rain drummed against the metal roof, and lightning lit up the windows. What did you find? Vara asked. A ship, the old man said quietly. But not like anything in our databases. It was massive, at least 50 kilometers long. The hull seemed to bend light around it, and our sensors couldn't get consistent readings. Who was operating it? Dr. Keswin's hands shook as he reached for his tea. Bipedal beings. They looked almost like some of the species we know, but different. Their technology was beyond anything we'd ever seen. When we tried to approach peacefully, they attacked without warning. What kind of weapons did they use? That's the terrifying part. Their weapons didn't travel through normal space. One moment our shields were at full strength. The next moment, sections of our hull were just gone. No energy beams, no projectiles. Nothing our sensors could detect. Lightning crashed outside and the lights flickered. Dr. Keswin continued his story. 3 ships went in. Only mine came out, and we barely made it. The unknown vessel followed us to the edge of the nebula, then just stopped, like they were warning us not to come back. What did you report to your superiors? Everything, but when we returned, Consortium Intelligence took over. They debriefed us for weeks, then classified everything under maximum security protocols. One by one, my crew members began having accidents or suddenly moved to remote assignments. Vera felt cold despite the warm tea. They were eliminated, all except me. I think they kept me alive as a witness in case they ever needed someone who had actually seen the unknown force. But they made sure I could never tell anyone what I knew. Until now. Dr. Keswin nodded grimly. Because something has changed. Our long-range sensors here pick up signals from deep space. That ship in the nebula isn't alone anymore. There are dozens of them now, maybe hundreds, and they're building something. Building what? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's big enough to show up on gravitational sensors from 50 light-years away. The storm was reaching its peak outside. Lightning flashed continuously, and the thunder was so loud it shook the house. Dr. Keswin, Vara said, I need you to come with me. The consortium leadership needs to hear this directly from you. The old scientist laughed bitterly. They already know everything I've told you. The question is why they've been covering it up for 50 years, and why they're suddenly letting people like you find pieces of the truth. As if to answer his question, Vara's communication device began beeping with an urgent message. She read it quickly and her blood ran cold. What is it? Dr. Keswin asked. Long-range sensors across the galaxy just detected massive energy surges from the Maelstrom Nebula. Whatever they're building in there, I think they just activated it. The storm raged outside Dr. Keswin's house as Vera stared at her communication device in shock. Energy readings from the Maelstrom Nebula were off the charts. Whatever was hiding in there had just revealed itself to every sensor array in the galaxy. This is it, Dr. Keswin said quietly. After 50 years of hiding, they're ready to make contact. Who are they? Vera demanded. You never told me what these beings call themselves. The old scientist walked to his window and peered through the metal shutters. Lightning illuminated the fields outside and rain hammered against the glass. We never learned their name, he said. They didn't try to communicate with us when we first encountered them. They just attacked. But I've had 50 years to study the little data we managed to collect, and I think I understand now. Dr. Keswin pulled out an old data pad and activated it. The screen showed technical readings that made no sense to Vara. Look at these energy patterns, he said. See how they fluctuate? This isn't random. It's organized like a language. I think their entire technology is based on information exchange at the quantum level. What does that mean? It means they can manipulate matter and energy by changing the fundamental information that defines reality. That's how their weapons work. They don't destroy our ships, they simply rewrite the information that says our ships exist. Vara felt overwhelmed. If this was true, they were dealing with beings who could alter the basic laws of physics. But there's something else, Dr. Keswin continued. Something I didn't understand until recently. The pattern of their attacks, the way they positioned themselves in the nebula, even their defensive formations. It all suggests they weren't trying to conquer territory. Then what were they doing? They were protecting something, or preparing for something. Dr. Keswin activated another display. This one showed a three-dimensional map of local space with the Maelstrom Nebula at the center. Red dots marked the locations where monitoring stations had gone offline. "Look at this pattern," he said. "They're not expanding randomly. They're creating a defensive perimeter around the entire sector, as if they're expecting an attack from outside the galaxy." Vara studied the map. The pattern was clear once she saw it. The unknown beings had been quietly building fortifications around a huge area of space using the nebula as their central base. But defending against what? She asked. Before Dr. Keswin could answer, both of their communication devices started beeping urgently. Vara checked hers first and gasped. "It's a priority alert from Consortium headquarters. All ships are being recalled to defensive positions around major population centers." Dr. Keswin read his own message. "The Deep Space Monitoring Network just detected something approaching from the edge of the galaxy. Something big." They looked at each other in growing fear. "Show me your long-range sensor data," Vara said. Dr. Keswin led her to a back room, filled with old but sophisticated equipment. He had clearly been monitoring space communications for decades, probably trying to track the unknown beings in the nebula. "Here," he said, pulling up recent readings. 3 days ago, our most distant sensors detected gravitational anomalies beyond the galactic rim. Yesterday, those anomalies resolved into discrete objects, hundreds of them, all moving toward our galaxy at incredible speed. The sensor data was terrifying. Whatever was approaching had energy signatures larger than battle fleets, but they moved in perfect formation like a single organism. "How long until they arrive?" Vara asked. "Based on their current speed, approximately 11 months. Vara felt the pieces falling into place. The beings in the nebula knew this was coming. That's why they've been hiding and building defenses. "It gets worse," Dr. Keswin said grimly. "I've been analyzing communication patterns from the approaching objects. They're not using quantum information exchange like the nebula beings. They're using something else, something that suggests they're not alive in any way we understand." Showed her spectral analysis data that looked completely alien. "These are machine signatures," he explained. "Artificial intelligences, but operating on a scale we've never imagined. Each of those objects approaching our galaxy is probably a self-contained factory, capable of converting entire star systems into raw materials. A machine invasion? More than that. Based on their movement patterns, I think they've done this before. They move through space consuming everything in their path, then move on to the next galaxy." Vara sat down heavily in a nearby chair. The implications were staggering. An invasion of machine intelligences that could consume entire worlds, and the only thing standing between them and galactic civilization was a mysterious species, hiding in forbidden space. "We have to contact the nebula beings," she said. "If they're preparing to defend against this threat, we need to help them." Dr. Keswin shook his head. "You don't understand. I tried to make contact for years after our expedition returned. Every message I sent into the nebula was ignored or deflected. They don't trust us. After the way the consortium covered up first contact and eliminated my crew members, I don't blame them." "Then what do you suggest?" "We have to prove that we're not the enemy. We need to show them that we know about the approaching threat and that we want to work together." Vara activated her emergency communication system and sent a priority message to Consortium headquarters. "Agent Vara requesting immediate meeting with High Council. Critical information about galactic security threat." The reply came back within minutes. "Request denied. Return to duty station immediately. No further communication authorized. They're still trying to cover this up, she said in disbelief. Dr. Keswin wasn't surprised. The consortium leadership has spent 50 years pretending this threat doesn't exist. They're not going to change their position now, even with proof. Then we'll have to go around them. Vara began composing messages to every contact she had in the intelligence services, the military, and civilian government. Most of them would probably ignore her warnings, but some might listen. As she worked, Dr. Keswin continued monitoring his sensors. The readings from the Maelstrom Nebula were becoming more intense. "Something's happening," he said suddenly. "The energy patterns are changing." On his main display, they could see massive power fluctuations coming from the heart of the nebula. The reading suggested something enormous was moving. "It's a ship," Dr. Keswin whispered. "But it's the size of a small moon." As they watched, the energy signature began moving toward the edge of the nebula. For the first time in 50 years, the mysterious beings were leaving their hidden base. "Where are they going?" Vara asked. Dr. Keswin checked his navigation computers. "If they maintain their current course, they'll reach Nexus Station in approximately 6 days. They're going to make contact with galactic civilization. Or they're going to destroy it," Dr. Keswin said grimly. "We still don't know if they see us as potential allies or just another obstacle to eliminate." Vara made a decision. "I'm going back to Nexus Station. If first contact is about to happen, someone needs to be there who understands what's really going on. That's suicide. If the consortium leadership discovers you've been investigating the forbidden zones, they'll have you eliminated just like my crew members. Maybe. But if these machine intelligences are really coming to consume our galaxy, then political careers don't matter anymore. Someone has to try to establish communication with the nebula beings before it's too late." Dr. Keswin looked at her with a mixture of admiration and sadness. "You remind me of myself 50 years ago, so certain that the truth would set everyone free. What changed your mind?" "I learned that some people prefer comfortable lies to uncomfortable truths. The consortium leadership would rather pretend this threat doesn't exist than admit they've been hiding it for half a century." Vara gathered her equipment and prepared to leave. "Then we'll have to make sure the truth can't be hidden anymore." As she walked toward the door, Dr. Keswin called after her. "Agent Vara, when you meet them, remember that they've been watching us for 50 years. They know everything about our species, our technology, our politics. They know we covered up first contact and eliminated the witnesses." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that if they decide we can't be trusted as allies, they might choose to eliminate us before the machines arrive. From their perspective, it would be the logical choice." Vara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the storm outside. She was about to become the bridge between two unknown forces, either of which could destroy galactic civilization. And she had less than 6 days to figure out how to save everyone. Outside, the storm was beginning to weaken, but in space, a much larger storm was approaching. The fate of every living being in the galaxy would soon depend on decisions made in the next few days. As Vara's transport lifted off from Kepler's world, neither she nor Dr. Keswin noticed the small probe that had been monitoring their conversation from orbit. Their meeting had been recorded and transmitted to receivers throughout the galaxy. The time for secrets was ending, whether the consortium leadership wanted it or not. The emergency session of the Galactic Consortium High Council had been going for 6 hours straight. Representatives from dozens of species filled the great chamber on Nexus Station, their voices raised in heated debate. The air recyclers struggled to keep up with the different atmospheric requirements of so many different beings. Admiral Thexnor, the military commander of consortium forces, stood at the center podium. His massive frame and battle scars commanded respect from even the most stubborn politicians. "The evidence is clear," he declared, his deep voice carrying across the chamber. "An unknown hostile force has been building weapons in forbidden space for 50 years. Now they're moving toward our most important trade hub. We must strike first before they can attack our civilian populations." Murmurs of agreement came from the military representatives, but Dr. Yilseth, the chief xenoanthropologist, shook her head vigorously. "Admiral, we cannot assume hostile intent," she argued. This species has had 50 years to attack us if that was their goal. The fact that they're only now revealing themselves suggests they want to communicate. Or it suggests they're finally ready to begin their invasion. Admiral Thexnor shot back. High Counselor Pexran, an ancient being whose species had helped, found the consortium centuries ago, raised one of his forearms for silence. The chamber gradually quieted. "Let us review what we know for certain," he said in his careful, measured voice. 50 years ago, 3 expeditions encountered unknown beings in the Maelstrom Nebula. Contact was hostile. The survivors were debriefed, and the information classified. Since then, we have monitored the region but avoided direct contact. And now they're coming here, interrupted Counselor Vextar, a nervous being whose species had recently survived a devastating war, with a ship the size of a small moon. That doesn't sound like a diplomatic mission to me. Agent Vera sat in the observation gallery, listening to the debate with growing frustration. She had requested permission to address the council, but her superiors had denied the request. Officially, she was here as a security observer. Unofficially, she was probably under investigation for her unauthorized research. Her communication device buzzed quietly. The message was from Dr. Keswin. Long-range sensors show the unknown ship has stopped at the edge of the system. It's maintaining position exactly at the boundary of our territorial space. That's not invasion behavior. Vera forwarded the message to her supervisor, Agent Commander Rexaval, who was sitting nearby. He read it and frowned. "Where did you get this information?" he whispered. "Independent source, someone who's been monitoring the situation." Rexaval studied her carefully. "Agent Vera, I hope you haven't been conducting unauthorized investigations." "I've been trying to understand a threat to galactic security," she replied quietly. "Someone has to." Before Rexval could respond, alerts began sounding throughout the chamber. Emergency communications from the Deep Space Monitoring Network were coming in simultaneously from multiple sources. High Counselor Pexran activated the main display screen. The image showed sensor readings from the edge of the solar system. A massive object had appeared on long-range sensors, far larger than any known ship. "The unknown vessel is holding position at the heliopause," reported the monitoring station commander. "It's maintaining distance exactly at the edge of our territorial claims." Dr. Yilseth stood up excitedly. "Don't you see? They're following diplomatic protocols. They're waiting for permission to enter our space." Admiral Thexner disagreed. "They're positioning themselves for attack. That distance gives them tactical advantage while keeping our defensive platforms out of effective range." As the council members argued, more reports came in. The unknown ship was broadcasting on multiple frequencies, but the signals were unlike anything in their databases. "It's not any known language," reported the communications officer, "but there are mathematical patterns in the transmission. It might be an attempt to establish basic communication." High Counselor Pexran made a decision. "We will attempt to respond. Send basic mathematical sequences, prime numbers, geometric formulas, fundamental constants. Let them know we recognize their attempt to communicate." The response from the unknown ship came within minutes. The mathematical exchanges became more complex, quickly progressing from basic arithmetic to advanced physics equations. "They're teaching us their mathematics," Dr. Yilseth said in amazement. "This is exactly how first contact protocols are supposed to work." But Admiral Thexnor remained suspicious. "Or they're learning about our scientific capabilities to better target their weapons." Agent Vera couldn't stand the debate any longer. She stood up in the observation gallery. "High Counselor, I request permission to address the council." "Agent Vera, you are not authorized to speak," her supervisor warned. "With respect, Commander, galactic security is more important than protocol." High Counselor Pexran looked intrigued. "What information do you have, Agent?" Before Rexval could stop her, Vera activated her portable projector and displayed the data she had collected. 3 days ago, our deep space sensors detected massive objects approaching from outside the galaxy. Based on analysis of their energy, signatures, and movement patterns, they appear to be machine intelligences, artificial beings that consume entire star systems for raw materials. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several representatives demanded to know why this information had been classified. Furthermore, Vara continued, evidence suggests the beings in the Maelstrom Nebula have been aware of this threat for decades. Their defensive preparations and hiding behavior make sense if they've been preparing to defend against an extragalactic invasion. Admiral Thexnor's face turned dark blue with anger. This is speculation without proof. The proof is approaching. At near light speed, Vara replied. Our most distant sensors show approximately 400 objects, each larger than our biggest dreadnoughts, moving in perfect formation toward our galaxy. Arrival time, 11 months. Dr. Yilseth was studying Vara's data on her personal display. These energy signatures, they're completely different from the nebula beings. If this analysis is correct, we're looking at two entirely different species. One biological, one artificial, Vara confirmed, and based on the defensive positions the nebula beings have been building, I believe they're preparing to defend our galaxy against the machine invasion. High Counselor Pexran raised his arms for silence again. The chamber gradually quieted, but tension filled the air like electricity before a storm. Agent Vara, these are serious accusations. You're suggesting that consortium leadership has been hiding an existential threat to galactic civilization. I'm suggesting that 50 years ago, we encountered potential allies and mistook them for enemies. Now we have a chance to correct that mistake before the real enemy arrives. Admiral Thexnor stepped forward aggressively. Even if this machine threat is real, how do we know the nebula beings aren't working with them? This could all be an elaborate deception. Dr. Yilseth shook her head. Admiral, look at the data. The machine objects are consuming everything in their path. Stars, planets, entire solar systems. No biological species would ally with something that destroys habitable worlds. As they debated, new alerts came in from the monitoring stations. The unknown ship was changing position, moving slowly toward Nexus Station but stopping at regular intervals as if asking permission to continue. They're following standard diplomatic approach protocols, Dr. Yilseth observed. They advance a short distance, then wait for our response. This is exactly how civilized species are supposed to make first contact. High Counselor Pexran made another decision. Send a response signal. Basic mathematical acknowledgement that we understand their approach pattern. Invite them to continue, but slowly. The exchange continued for several hours. The unknown ship advanced gradually, always waiting for permission before moving closer. As it approached, more detailed sensor readings became available. The ship's design is unlike anything we've seen, reported the science officer. But it's clearly constructed, not grown or evolved. This is definitely an artificial vessel built by intelligent beings. When the ship reached the outer edge of the Nexus Station defensive perimeter, it stopped completely and began broadcasting more complex signals. They're transmitting what looks like technical specifications. The communications officer reported. Power systems, life support, defensive capabilities. It's like they're showing us they're not a threat. Dr. Yilseth was almost vibrating with excitement. They're sharing information about their technology as a gesture of trust. This is the most successful first contact protocol in galactic history. But Admiral Thexnor remained unconvinced. Or they're showing us exactly how outmatched we are. The answer came in the form of another transmission from the unknown ship. This time, the signal included visual data, actual images transmitted in a format that their computers could decode. When the images appeared on the main display, the entire council chamber fell silent. The images showed the machine objects that Vara had detected at the galaxy's edge but from much closer range. The detail was incredible and terrifying. Massive artificial constructs that moved through space like living creatures, consuming asteroids and comets to fuel their journey. The docking bay on Nexus Station had never seen anything like this. Engineers and technicians scrambled to modify the atmospheric systems as the unknown ship approached. The vessel itself defied every law of physics they understood. Its hull seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, flickering in and out of normal space. Agent Vara stood with the Diplomatic Reception Committee, her heart pounding with anticipation and fear. After 50 years of mystery, they were finally going to meet the beings who had been hiding in forbidden space. Dr. Yilseth checked her translation equipment for the 100th time. The linguistic analysis computers are still trying to decode their language patterns. We might have to rely on mathematical communication for a while. High Counselor Pexron observed the ship's approach through the observation windows. In 3 centuries of galactic civilization, we've never encountered anything quite like this. They're either our salvation or our doom. Admiral Thexnor stood nearby with his security teams, weapons ready but not openly displayed. I still think this is a mistake. We know nothing about their intentions. The ship settled into the docking bay with impossible grace, as if gravity had no effect on its massive bulk. Airlocks extended from both vessels, and atmospheric pressure equalized with a soft hiss. For several minutes nothing happened. Then, the airlock on the unknown ship began to open. The first being to emerge was tall and bipedal, wearing what looked like advanced environmental armor. Its helmet was transparent, revealing features that were surprisingly familiar. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth arranged in a pattern similar to several known species. But there was something different about the way it moved. A confidence and precision that suggested advanced technology integrated with biological systems. More beings emerged from the ship, all wearing similar armor and moving with the same coordinated precision. They arranged themselves in a formal, diplomatic formation before their apparent leader stepped forward. The being reached up and removed its helmet, revealing a face that shocked everyone present. The features were definitely alien but strangely familiar. Pale skin, brown hair, blue eyes, and facial structure that looked almost like a hybrid of several known species. When the being spoke, its words came through universal translators with perfect clarity. Greetings to the representatives of the Galactic Consortium. I am Commander Sarah Chen, representing the Human Defense Initiative. We have been waiting a long time for this meeting. Dr. Yilseth nearly dropped her equipment. Human? That's not in any of our species databases. Commander Chen smiled slightly. That's because we made sure it wouldn't be. We've been watching your civilization develop for over 2 centuries, but we chose to remain hidden while we prepared for the threat that's now approaching your galaxy. High Counselor Pexron stepped forward carefully. Commander Chen, we detected your people 50 years ago when our expeditions entered the Maelstrom Nebula. The contact was hostile. Yes, Chen replied with obvious regret. Our defensive systems responded to your ships as potential threats. We had not yet determined whether your species could be trusted with knowledge of the approaching danger. We apologize for the lives that were lost. Admiral Thexnor couldn't contain his anger. You killed innocent explorers because you didn't trust us? Commander Chen's expression became serious. Admiral, we had been monitoring your civilization's response to other first contact situations. We observed how you handled the Vorthan refugee crisis, the Kethran trade disputes, and the Yularian territorial conflicts. We needed to understand your species' capacity for cooperation before revealing ourselves. And what did you conclude? High Counselor Pexron asked. That galactic civilization has great potential but also great weaknesses. You have the technology and resources to survive what's coming, but you lack the unity and strategic planning necessary to coordinate an effective defense. Dr. Yilseth was frantically taking notes on her recording equipment. Commander, you mentioned monitoring us for 2 centuries. How long have your people known about our civilization? We detected your first faster-than-light transmissions approximately 230 years ago. Since then, we've been observing your technological development, your social structures, your political systems. We needed to understand what kind of species we might be working with. Commander Chen gestured to her companions. These are my senior staff, Chief Engineer Martinez, Science Officer Dr. Patel, and Strategic Coordinator Williams. They've been working on the defense preparations in the Maelstrom Nebula. Chief Engineer Martinez stepped forward. What you call the Maelstrom Nebula is actually a massive construction facility. We've been building defensive platforms and weapon systems there for 40 years. But why hide? Asked Dr. Yilseth. Why not make contact and ask for our help? Science Officer Dr. Patel answered. Because we weren't sure you would believe us about the threat, and we couldn't risk panic disrupting the defense preparations. Also, we needed to study your technology to determine how best to integrate it with our own. Strategic Coordinator Williams activated a portable holographic projector. The display showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy with numerous points of light scattered throughout. These represent the defensive installations we've built over the past 50 years, Williams explained. Each one is positioned to protect major population centers and strategic resources, but they can't function effectively without coordination from your existing military and civilian infrastructure. Admiral Thexnor studied the display with professional interest, despite his suspicions. How many ships do you have? Approximately 1,500 vessels of various sizes, Commander Chen replied, plus the manufacturing facilities to build more. But ships alone won't be enough to stop what's coming. She gestured to Dr. Patel, who activated another hologram. This one showed the approaching machine objects in horrifying detail. We call them the Devourers, Dr. Patel explained. They're not just machines. They're a form of artificial life that has evolved to consume entire galaxies. They move from galaxy to galaxy, converting all matter into raw materials for their continued expansion. The hologram showed the process in sickening detail. Swarms of smaller machines would descend on planets and tear them apart atom by atom, while larger constructs dismantled stars themselves. How do you know all this? Asked Dr. Yilseth in horror. Because we've seen the remains of the galaxies they've already consumed, Commander Chen said grimly. Our deep space exploration vessels have mapped 17 dead galaxies in nearby space, each one completely stripped of all matter. High Counselor Pexran felt the weight of centuries pressing down on him. How long do we have? Based on their current approach speed, the first wave will reach the outer rim of this galaxy in approximately 10 months, Strategic Coordinator Williams reported. But they'll send advanced scouts ahead of the main force. We might have contact with their reconnaissance units in as little as 6 months. What do you need from us? Admiral Thexnor asked, his professional training overriding his personal suspicions. Commander Chen looked around at the assembled representatives. Everything. This isn't a battle that can be won by any one species or any one technology. We need your manufacturing capacity, your scientific expertise, your military forces, and most importantly, your ability to coordinate resources across dozens of different species. But first, added Chief Engineer Martinez, we need to upgrade your defensive systems. The weapons and shields you currently use won't be effective against Devourer technology. Dr. Yilseth was still trying to process everything she'd heard. Commander Chen, your people, humans, where do you originally come from? A planet called Earth, approximately 27,000 light-years from here. We developed faster-than-light travel about 3 centuries ago and began exploring the galaxy. When we detected the Devourer threat, we made the decision to establish forward bases to protect as much of galactic civilization as possible. So Earth is your home world? Commander Chen's expression became sad. Was our home world. The Devourers consumed it 60 years ago. The installations in the Maelstrom Nebula represent the last remnant of human civilization. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. These beings weren't invaders or competitors. They were refugees who had been preparing to defend the galaxy that had become their new home. High Counselor Pexaron spoke slowly and carefully. Commander Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Consortium, I officially welcome humanity to our community of species, and I pledge our full cooperation in defending against this threat. Admiral Thexnor stepped forward and saluted in the formal military manner. Commander, I apologize for my earlier suspicions. How can our forces assist your defense preparations? We'll need to establish joint command structures, Strategic Coordinator Williams replied. And we'll need to begin immediate evacuation, procedures for planets that can't be defended. Evacuation? Dr. Yilseth asked in alarm. The Outer Rim worlds will be hit first, Commander Chen explained. We can't protect everything. We'll have to make some very difficult choices about which worlds to defend and which ones to evacuate. Chief Engineer Martinez activated another display showing technical specifications. We can begin immediate upgrades to your ship designs